for capital punishment or the death penalty. If it was someone you knew, someone in your family who was brutally murdered, and you had a choice, what would you choose for that person who was responsible? Capital punishment or the death penalty is the inflicting of death upon a person by a judicial process as a punishment for an offense. If someone you loved was brutally murdered, what would you want to have happen to that person? Happen to the person responsible. Capital punishment is a punishment given to those who brutally calculative and premeditated the death of another. In America, the first death penalty sentence was in 1608 in Jamestown. There are different methods of the death penalty over the years and how they've evolved. Death by hanging, burning, stoning. Move forward till now, and we've got the electric chair and lethal injection. Lethal injection is more widely used now, but in some states the electric chair is still an option. There's a story here in Arizona about a man named Daniel Wayne Cook who brutally murdered Carlos Cruz Ramirez and Kevin Swaney. And sorry, that moved a little faster than I wanted it to. Kevin Swaney was a 16-year-old boy who they all worked together. One night, Daniel Wayne Cook decided he was going to steal from Carlos Cruz Ramirez. He raped him, he beat him, he tortured him, and then murdered him and threw his body in the closet. When Kevin Swaney came to the house a little while later, he did the same thing to him. Oops. Sorry, guys. During his trial, Cook asked the judge for the death penalty, and he gave it to him. He has spent the last 24 years appealing his decision, and his lawyers are now saying that he was not adequately defended. That could be because he fired his lawyer and decided to defend himself. Where now the Supreme Court has heard it. Sorry, we're going too fast. The Supreme Court gave him a stay of execution. This was just about a month ago. They will not hear his case until sometime in the fall, and they can decide to either refuse to hear the case, or to hear the case and the sentence will stand, hear the case and decide the sentence will stand, refuse to hear the case and it stands, or send the case back to the state and order a new trial, which could change from the death penalty to just life in prison. Some will argue that, you know, the morality of it, I believe it's morally right. Morality is the principle concerning the difference between right and wrong. The Constitution supported the death penalty. It constructed laws to carry it out. Here's something I found online. Morality is doing what is right regardless of what you are being told. Religion is doing what you are told regardless if it's right. Some will argue that the death penalty does not deter crime. I believe it does. Executing murderers prevents them from committing their crimes again. That's 100% effective. Life in prison versus the death penalty. When you're sentenced to life in prison, you're given free housing, free education, legal services, visits with your family, the best health care you can possibly get, 3 square meals, and it costs almost $1.2 million to keep that person in jail for the rest of their life, which they assess life in prison to be about 25 years. The death penalty costs about $2 million from sentencing to the actual death. Yeah, it's a little bit more, but I think it's fair. My opponent will argue can argue the financial aspect of it, but there's a solution to that. Limiting the time frame for appeals and retrials from what we're going on 24 years right now for one case, limit it to 10 years. That should be adequate time to ensure all legal avenues are pursued, and that will save money. But automatically just putting someone in prison for life for the sake of saving money, it's not really fair. It's not fair to the victim. It's not fair to the victim's family. And that's my work site.